here, RDT of TCP. These are the characteristics. First of all, it's pipelined. So we send packets back to back in TCP as well. We could have multiple packets in one flight. And the acknowledgement is cumulative, meaning the sequence number in the ACK indicates all the packets below that up to that number are received correctly. And there's only one retransmission timer for the entire flight of packet. And so when that timer times out, then we retransmit the flight of packets. So up to this point, you will probably guess TCP's RDT looks very much like, yep, GBN, the go back in. Now the slight difference is this. In TCP, the RDT adds a little bit something so to speed up the retransmission. And that is a special condition when the sender sees a certain number of duplicate ACKs arriving quickly. Yeah, retransmission timeout, that's not wait for that, that's quickly retransmit. Okay, so this is also called the fast retransmission mechanism. So this is something that's a little bit unlike the standard go backend, but implemented in TCP. Right. Next are the finite state machines of the TCPs. To make it simple, let's ignore the dupe ACK part, okay, the fast transmission part, and let's not talk about the other mechanisms we have not yet discussed that's implemented in TCP. If you are expecting TCP sender looks very much like go backend sender, you're correct. First transition is what? The get call from above transition. Okay, receive data from application. Okay. So in TCP sender, we generate the packet, assign the sequence number to the packet, of course also calculate the checksum, and pass that to the lower layer. So it's essentially the UDT send call. And we check whether the timer has already been started for the flight. If it does, don't do anything. Otherwise, if there's no timer currently running, we're sending a packet, then this must be the send base. Start the timer. And then we increment the next seek num. But in TCP, we are not counting packets, right? If we are counting packets, we add the sequence number by one packet. But here, we are counting the bytes. So we are adding the number of bytes in the data in the packet we're sending out. Now, you see here, I'm trying to be a bit lazy. I did not do the window size check, okay? But in TCP sender, there's also a window size. So there should be an if condition here before creating packet to check whether the next seek num, okay, is still within the window limit, of course. And next, this is also a familiar transition. This is the transition when the sender receives an ACK. Well, similar to go backend's transition receiving an ACK, that's extract the sequence number from the ACK packet. Now, the action of TCP sender here is different. Only when the sequence number is larger than the send base, meaning this is a new ACK packet. So the sequence number here is something that has not yet been acknowledged. Then we set the send base to the new sequence number because now acknowledgement is received. Sender should say that that's slide the send base over. All right. Now, if there are currently not yet ACK packets around, then that's restart timer. So we'll be starting the timer for the new send base. If there are no outstanding packets, so if there are no not yet acknowledged packets around, then let's simply stop the timer. Because this ACK here, acknowledges all the packets that are waiting to be acknowledged. All right? So, hey, looking very simple. That is also saying when y here equals the send base, we do what? Nothing. So if a duplicate ACK is received at the TCP sender, hey, timer does not get restarted, unlike in go backend. Yeah, even though the sequence number is the same, timer gets restarted, refreshed. Okay. And the third transition, again, very typical, this is the timeout transition. So when timer times out, retransmit the entire flight of packet from the send base, and then start timer. This is actually identical to go backend. Yeah, in go backend sender, there's actually one more transition, which is doing what? Checking whether the ACK is corrupted or whether the ACK is a NAC. Okay. In those cases, we do nothing. But you see, yeah, when ACK is received, do these. And when the ACK is new, is doing this. So all these other things do nothing, is just, saying default actions all ignored. Okay, so from now on, if you don't see any other conditions being listed as a transition here, that means they will be just ignored. Now, this is just another way of writing the finite state machine, but in a pseudo call form. So we switch, different events. There's the data received from above case. There's the timeout case. There's also the receiving of an app packet case. So receiving data from app, generate packet, set the sequence number in byte count, and start timer if there's not one yet running. Just to make sure that you set the timeout interval to what? The estimated RTT plus 4 times the deviation of RTT. In timeout here, if it is triggered, then retransmit the whole flight of segments and restart timer. Receiving an ACK, extract ACK number. If the ACK number is new, meaning it's acknowledging something that has not yet been acknowledged previously, then update the same base. So we slide the window over. We restart the timer if there are still unacked packets waiting. Otherwise, stop timer. Right. These are the only 3 events. If there are other events occurring not fitting any of these events, ignore. If you're not quite convinced the previous slide is a pseudo call, this one should convince you. Okay, so what I'm listing here, typing up here, is essentially what the finite state machine is telling. Initialization, and this, it's gonna go forever. It's looping forever, just like every server here, right? Waiting for an event to occur and take the actions correspondingly. It's a switch essentially on the events, and there are 3 different events: getting data from above, timeout, and receiving an ACK. So, from a finite state machine, you can actually convert it to a pseudo call, give this to your programmers, then you get yourself a TCP Sender implementation. Right. So, being able to write out from the thinking, from the designing of TCP Sender to the finite state machine is essential, because, that drawing the finite state machine out of your thinking process is simpler. Okay? Trying to write the pseudo call out of the thinking process, just too challenging. Okay? Once you get the finite state machine, then you can gradually transition that to pseudo call. And there, you are one step closer to getting an implementation of what you were thinking about, what you were designing.